You can pass your UK driving test on your first attempt. I'm going to give you 6 tips to enable you to do this. I'm going to give you 6 tips, like I said, to help you pass your driving test on your first attempt. And I'm also going to give you some bonus tips. So please make sure you watch the video right to the end. Now, you're on era. Grab yourself a cup of coffee or some popcorn and pay close attention, because these tips I'm going to share with you will help anybody, and I repeat, anybody, to pass their driving test on the first attempt if followed closely. So the first tip I'm going to share with you is just book your driving lessons. This one is for the male folk, right? Because a woman naturally would think that she should book her driving lessons, but the men believe that they can drive. They've been driving from their mother's womb, and therefore, why do they need to take driving lessons to pass a driving test? That was what my husband said to me when I first moved here. He said, go and book the test. You've been driving for years. Go and book the test. And I booked the test, but I wasn't confident at all. And when you're not confident during your test, your examiner can tell. I failed my first test. So book your lessons. There are certain things that the examiners want to see you do on the driving test day, and there are certain things they do not want to see you do. These are the things that your examiner will help you note and learn how to drive the way that the examiners want to see you drive. So you need to book your lessons. Lessons cost £35 each on average. Some people charge a little bit less. But if you can book in bulk, then you can get a discount. Yeah, I know companies that offer 10 lessons for £300. So you're getting it at £30 per lesson, which is basically a £5 or more discount. So if you book your lessons with these companies, you're going to save something, but you have to book at least 10 lessons. They will not give you that discount if you're booking less than 10 lessons. My second tip is this: do not book a test until you have an instructor. It sounds like it goes without saying, right? After the first one, when you have booked lessons, some people just book lessons and then they go ahead and book a test without even confirming or discussing with the instructor about where they're booking a test at. They just want to do the test. They're in a hurry to get the license. If you have an instructor, you need to communicate with your instructor before you book your test. And before you book your test, make sure you have an instructor who is going to accompany you to the test on that day with their car. Unless you're not planning to use that instructor's car on the day of the test, then probably that is fine. But if you're planning to use your instructor's car for the test, then you need to communicate with the instructor that you already have who is going to take you for the test on that day. This is because many times the instructors are more conversant with particular areas where they've driven, where they've taught people, where they've taken people for tests. They are used to specific areas, and in some cases examiners in particular test centers are already friendly with some of the instructors. This does not mean that they will pass you even if you don't need to pass or you don't deserve to pass, but there's this kind of camaraderie between the instructors and the examiners that kind of like you an edge. If they know your instructor, they know that he teaches well, they know that he doesn't bring people who are half-baked for the test, the confidence level of the examiner will go up a little bit on the day of the test. But ultimately, it is about you being used to the area where your test is going to take place at, and this is determined by the instructor who is going to prepare you for the test. Now, the other thing about this is that if you do not communicate with your instructor and you just go ahead and book a test, the instructor has not told you to book a test, they might not even feel that you're ready to book a test. You go ahead and book a test, and the instructor tells you, well, I'm not available on the day your test is booked because I already had the test booked for that day, and that person is going to use my car. That means you will have to look for another vehicle to take your test in, and that might unsettle you if you're driving a vehicle that you have not been used to on the day of the test. And the examiners don't want to see you unsettled at all on the day of your test. And so if there's anything that will happen on the day of the test that you might not be used to the vehicle, it will show, and this might cause you to fail the test. So you want to have all your ducks in a row. So before you book your test, you have to confirm who will be accompanying you for your test. If you're using the examiner's, your instructor's vehicle, then you need to communicate with your instructor before you book your test. They will advise you which test center to book your test at, and then book the test on the day that they will be available to take you for the test in their cars. Now, my third tip would be that you have to practice at the particular test center where you are going to be tested. So if you booked your test in any specific test center, make sure you're driving at that test center as much as possible during your driving lessons. Now, DVSA recommends that you have, I think, 40 hours of taught driving with instructor and about 20 hours with family and who have a car. So whether you're doing it with the instructor or you're doing it on your own, it is advisable that you get used to driving in the area where you're going to do your test. You need to understand where you have roundabout, you need to know where you have one-way street, you need to know the kind of country roads that exist there, if there are country roads. So I'm supposed to, you can drive, as the national speed limit on the country roads is 60. You can drive 60 on country roads, but there are some country roads that during your test, if you drive 60 or even if you attempt to drive 60, you will fail, because the examiner expects you to know that this road might be too long, too narrow, or too winding, too winding for you to do 60, because it would be a hazard if you did that. So you need to know the rules well enough to know that, okay, there's a 60 mile per hour road here, but I can't do 60, I can do 40 on this road. You need to know where you have complicated roundabouts, where you have complicated turns and bends and junctions, and where you have a lot of traffic. You need to know this. It helps you a lot to build your confidence on the day of the test. So it is advisable that you drive as much as possible, as many hours as possible in the area where you are going to write your test. There's a test, there's an called the driving test route app, which you can use when you're doing your personal driving. You need to have a family member with you anyway, because you are not supposed to be in the car. If you have a provisional license, you're not supposed to drive in the car alone without a driver by your side who has at least 10 years driving experience. So going to drive with family and friends, you can use the driving test route app that will help you to get used to the routes that the driving test usually is conducted at in that center. And I'll put a link to the app below if I can. But this will help you to pass your test if you can remember. And of course, any instructor knows to do this. Any instructor knows that they should take you to the route where you're going to do your test and help you to get used to driving at that route. So my fourth tip would be for the immigrants, people who did not grow up in this country, who were not born here. If you're emigrating to the United Kingdom, the one thing you must bring with you is your international driving license. Make sure you get it before you leave your country. Make sure you arrive in the UK with that document. This will enable you to drive in the UK for 1 year. All right, when you arrive in the UK, you can no longer use your international driving license. So once you land in the UK, what do? Buy a car. Within a month of arriving in the UK, you can be on the streets driving with your international driving license. This will enable you to get used to the road, to get confident behind the wheel, especially if you're coming from a country where driving on the side of the road we drive on in the UK is not the norm. Here, they drive on the right side, the rest of the left side, the rest of the world drives on the right side, I believe. So you need to get used to driving on the street, you get used to the road signs, you get used to so many things, and this is going to build your confidence prior to taking the test. So when you get your driving license, when you get your car, you're driving in the UK, then you start to book your lessons. You speak with an instructor. So what I'm saying is you must kick off the process as soon as you arrive in the country. Don't wait until you have to go for a job interview and they ask you, do you have a car? Do you have a UK driving license? Don't wait until then. Once you come into the country, start planning to take the test so that you can maximize that 1 year in which you are allowed to drive with your international driving license. Within 6 months of arrival in the UK, you can book your theory test. When you book your theory test, after you have obviously obtained the provisional license which you apply for and is delivered to your house, you can book your theory test. When you book your theory test, you have a provisional license, then you will no longer be allowed to drive without an instructor or an experienced driver by your side. 6 months, 9 months, they book your theory test and then book your practical, your driving test, whichever one you want to do, but you have 1 year in which you can actually maximize your driving skill, get used to the roads on the UK, and then book your test, and you can easily pass the test if you do this. Now, my fifth tip will be for people who cannot afford a car upon arrival, because I know that fingers are not equal. Some people come here on different playing fields and they just like, I can't afford the car. I paid for my ticket. I paid for my visa. I paid for housing. Some people have to pay for 6 months rent arrival in the UK. You can imagine that 6 months is a lot of money. A month is like £800 and 6 months. So if you tell me you can't afford a car upon arrival, I absolutely understand, and I got you. I got you, and YouTube's got you as well. YouTube University. You just sit down and watch the videos on YouTube. Let me tell you something. There is really absolutely no driving test route in this country. I believe I can say this confidently. There is no driving test route in this country that the videos have not already been uploaded on YouTube. Just check YouTube. You will see the driving test route where you're going to write your test, and you just watch it. Do not learn the maneuvers on YouTube. Your maneuvers will be taught you by your instructor. Whatever your instructor teaches you, however your instructor teaches you to complete the maneuver, that is what you should learn. Why? Because on YouTube you have 1,001 different methods of completing the maneuvers. Almost all the instructors have a different method of completing the maneuver. Before you know it, you will be confused. I was confused at a point, and then you will lose your confidence, and you don't want anything that will make your confidence drop on the day of the test. So what you do is you just follow the route, just learn the route. Okay, here there's a way road. Oh, here the road goes this way. Oh, here the road goes that way. Oh, here there's a bus lane. Oh, here there's a country road. Oh, here there's a national speed limit road. Just learn the route, but just follow your instructor's instructions to do the maneuvers. Pass your test, and then you can go Jackie Chan on the road and do the maneuvers anyhow you want to do it. But make sure you follow your instructor when it comes to the maneuvers, so you don't get confused and you don't make mistakes on the day of the test. The sixth tip is absolutely important, that you learn how to manage your nerves. A lot of things that happen on the day of the test are caused by nerves. A lot of what goes on the day of the test have to do with your psyche. Your psyche, examiner's psyche. Examiner is scared. They don't know how well you drive. They're putting their lives in your hands. So they are very, very, very careful. Slightest mistake you make, they will pick it. But you, on the other hand, are just facing standard driving conditions, real-time driving conditions that could throw you at any point. And even if you're the most confident driver, that can actually cause you to get really, really nervous. So you have to be able to manage your nerves. I'll give you 3 tips to help you manage your nerves. So the first one is, have as many lessons as possible close to the time of your test. If possible, batch all your lessons close to the time of your test. Now, I know I told you that in a year, you could have already started speaking to an instructor prior to that time. You could have already started preparing for your test and everything. You can have a lesson, 2 lessons, spaced out. You know that you want to take your test. When you know you have booked your test, that is when you should plan to have the most number of lessons. This will help you to get more confidence behind the wheel, especially if you don't have a car of your own and you're not planning to drive continuously. Because if you have your own car, after your instructor is done with you, you can go with an experienced driver who is your friend and just drive around the route with the driving test route app and get used to it. But if you do not have a car of your own, then you need to batch your lessons. Like 2 weeks prior to the test days, you just do as many lessons as possible, and this will help you to build your confidence. Because for me, I was having lessons at 1 week intervals, and it didn't help me, because each time I got behind the wheel, I felt as if I had forgotten everything, and I felt as if I was starting all over again. This will not help you to pass your test. So one thing I will say to you is this: make sure that you practice with your instructor few days before the test. Just batch some lessons day after day. Take those lessons as close as possible to the day of your test. Now, the second tip to help you manage your nerves would be that you need to rest. Even if you're batching your lessons close to the day of the test, you still need to get enough rest the day before the test. On the day of the test, don't drive indefinitely. Don't plan to take a driving lesson on the day of the test for 2 hours. Do not plan to do that. You need to rest. Don't plan to have a 3-hour driving lesson the day before your test. You need to rest. You can do your normal driving lesson the day before your test, rest, and then on the day of the test, probably drive for like 30 minutes and get enough rest before the test. Because if you've been driving and go for the test, you're tired. It will show, and it might affect your judgment, it might affect your reflexes. And then the day before the test, make sure you get enough rest. Sleep well, don't binge eat, don't drink too much, so you're not pressed at the time of the test. You need to calm your nerves as much as possible. Drive, practice, but make sure you get enough rest. Now, my third tip to help manage your nerves is to choose your test date and time wisely. Very important. There are times of the day that are busier than others. This might sound like ridiculousness to you, but honestly, I did this and it helped me. There are times of the day that are busier than others. 12 p.m. is lunchtime. Most people are on the roads. 8:30 is full time. From 8, the roads are already busy. Parents are rushing. There's a rush hour. Parents are rushing to drop their kids off at school and also get to work. So from 8 to 9, even 9:30, the roads will be very, very busy. If you stay on those same roads by 10 a.m., 11 a.m., you'll be surprised at how free the roads will be. Some days are busier than others. For instance, Fridays are so busy. From 12, 1, 2 on Fridays, because most schools close a little bit earlier. So it might be 2:30, might be 3. So you notice that a lot of people are already rushing on the roads to get their kids out of school. Some people are traveling for the weekend. Some people have plans for the weekend. So the roads are busy. From 2 p.m., you know they're going to be quite busy, especially on Fridays. So what do? You plan your tests. From like 10 a.m. to 2, the roads will be quite conducive for you to fix your test. So those are the times that I would suggest you fix your test for. On the weekends, great. You can have a test on the weekend. It's just like it's slightly more expensive to book a test on the weekend. But remember that even on the weekends, your noon time is also going to be quite busy because most people are still home in the mornings. They're just waking up, they're sleeping and everything. But from noon, people are out on the streets, going out for parties, going to the mall just to hang out and everything. So the roads will be busy. So even if you're booking on the weekend, you still have to note the time. So book a time that the road will be free, when the road will be conducive for you to pass your test, and just go with your license. Period. I have a bonus tip for you, even though I've given you more than one bonus, but this is another bonus. And the bonus is, no matter what happens on the day of your test, don't stop. Don't give up. Don't say, oh, I failed the test, I can't continue. Drive all the way to the end. Complete the route. You get why, as we say in Nigeria. Complete the route. You may not have failed the test. You might feel that you failed the test. You might feel that you've made a terrible mistake, but your examiner has the final say. Drive until the end of the route and let your examiner tell you whether you passed your test or not. Some people have disqualified themselves. You've made a mistake and then you just quit. All that is part of being, in control of your emotions. All that is part of the confidence they want to see you exhibit. Even if you've made a mistake, they want to see you be able to manage your emotions, manage your nerves, and still drive safely. So if you've made a mistake, continue driving. The examiner might look at you and say, yes, even though she made a mistake, she was still able to compose herself. Yes, exactly. That's the word, composure. She was still able to compose herself and drive safely until the end of the test. And you can pass that test. But some people have failed themselves because I can't drive again. I didn't do it like that. I failed. Are you sure you want to stop the test at this point? And they say yes. There's no problem. But when you get to the end, they'll tell you, well, sorry, you passed the test. I wouldn't have failed you, but you failed yourself. So if you feel that you have failed the test, don't give up. Just keep driving till you get to the end. When you get to the end, the examiner will tell you whether you passed or failed. And even if they tell you failed, it's not the end of the world. Every test you fail is one life you have saved. I have driven in a car with people, or have been driven in a car by people who passed their test on the first attempt. To be honest with you, I was scared for my life at some point in those cars. Yes, because they just crammed the road, they just crammed everything, and they went and they passed the test. But their driving skill was not par. So even if you fail the test the first time, the second time, the third time, every test you fail is a life you have saved. And it might be your life or the life of your child. So you don't take it that, oh, I failed the test, it's the end of the world. No. What lesson have you learned? What mistake did you make that you can correct your driving with and make you a safer driver for the rest of your life? I still drive the way I learned to drive. Even though I took the test 6 times, I do not regret it, because every time I learned something new, something different. I mean, sound like a motivational speaker now, but I know this video is titled Pass Your Test on the First Attempt. But even if you don't pass it on your first attempt, it's not the end of the world. It's an opportunity for you to learn something that could save your life or another person's life in future. And that is all I have for you today. Once again, I am Nkiruka. Please subscribe to my channel, NkirukaLife. I promise to bring you good value in every video that I put on my channel, and I'll be calling it a wrap on this one. Remember to like and share, and I'll see you in my next one. Ciao. Thank you for watching.